All right.
But all right, man. So episode, what is it? Four.
It's 4. Yep.
Four, right? Episode four of Skeleton Crew. We both
Yeah.
watched it. We're gonna do a little bit of review on it. Um, you haven't told me anything, but you have told me that you've liked it. I have a feeling
Yeah.
we're gonna differ on this one. I didn't. There was aspects I didn't love, but
Yeah.
I'm setting it up this way because I want you to sell me on it. Maybe there's something that I didn't pick up on and I should have seen. So I want to hear it from you, man. What do you think of this episode?
Yeah. So first off, you said I didn't tell you anything, and then but you said you loved it. So I did tell you something.
Well, you didn't tell me really anything.
I
You
know.
said I really liked it. That's all you texted me. You said I really liked it. That's all I got from you.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So I liked it. I don't know if I'd say it was my favorite. I'm kind of like you actually. There are parts I didn't really love, but overall, I think the show's just kind of continuing to hold my interest.
Oh
I
yeah.
just love a good mystery.
Mhm.
I feel like we're unraveling the mystery, and that's what's kind of gripping me. Um, but I mean, like we've said before, it's not a perfect 10 of a show, but it's enjoyable. I get what the show is. I'm enjoying it, and this episode was very enjoyable for me.
Yeah. So
Um,
explain the episode. Like what happened this episode? Like what were all the
yes.
events?
So they go to a planet. They think it's at Aden because that's what Kim told them in the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
And as they're pulling up to it,
Kim's the owl, right? Like
Kim's the owl. So
Yeah.
they go to this planet. It's not at Aden. It's at Akron.
Mhm.
And then, as they were pulling up to the planet, it kind of showed like an aerial view, and I'm like, my gut feeling is this is not at Aden. I just know it's not. And you kind of saw there's like some destroyed towns, and that's what they find. So they get to the planet, it's all destroyed. And they find out it's at Akron, and that's where they find the Hatan tribe. And I don't know. Do you want me to outline like the whole episode and then we'll dive into it, or
Yeah, man, just keep going.
what would you prefer? Okay, so they find the Hatan tribe. It's like this. Well, they're found by like children. Like this girl and her friend find them, and
the group of kids are found by
Yeah.
children, not like the tribe is found by children. Yeah, like there's
Yes.
two kids that find the four characters we've been following this whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they go back. They like meet this whole tribe, the Hatan tribe. They find out they're feuding with another tribe for resources. They find out like the planet's just kind of in shambles. Everyone's kind of scavenging for resources. So the Hatan tribe kind of accepts them. They say, we're going to, put you through a trial to become children warriors, which I want to talk about this more, but like, that's what I had an issue with, where I'm like, you're really just like going to trust 4 random children to like lead your raid.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of bizarre. But then like they go, they lead, they find Jode. The tribe says, we trust you. We're going to show you these secret archives. You can try to find out Aden. And so they go to the secret archives, and that's where they find out, hey, this has the coordinates to like all the planets.
Right.
They name off a bunch of them.
So like 5
I wrote them
numbers
down.
that.
Yeah, there's 9 total, but they listed off a few. There's like at you, at Arisa, at Aravan, at Akoda, and the planet they're on at Akron. So they do that. Then they find the one that has Aden's coordinates, and it's destroyed. So they find out that their robot actually destroyed it, and the robot's been to that planet before.
Right.
And that's where they find out that the robot had been told, like, do not divulge any details about Aden. And so that's then the robot attacks them because they're trying to like probe the robot and say like, hey, tell us more. And he's like, I was told if anybody's probing, I need to like kill you. And so
rip him limb from limb. Is what he says.
Yes, yeah. Rip you limb from limb. So he tries to attack the children, then Jode saves them. He turns off the robot, and episode.
Yeah, it was the heroic part was Neil, right? Neil gets his courage. Yeah. This was definitely a Neil episode, focusing on the character arc of Neil overcoming his like shyness and doing something brave, and He kind of gets a little more courage. He got a little kiss from the girl,
Yep.
and you can tell a little more pep in his step after that. And he
Yeah.
decides to be brave enough against the robot. And by
And
doing
throw a
so, they
rock
did
at him.
save the kids. And then Jode steps in and saves Neil. And yeah.
Yeah. So good episode. Like I said before, it's just an entertaining show. I'm just enjoying
Oh,
it.
yeah.
I know what it is. I love the mystery, and every episode ends, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like divulge more. Like I need to know more about the mystery. And so I think the show does a really good job of that, of like holding my interest. And that's what I really love about it.
Yeah, so I agree with you 100% on that. So have you ever seen the show, like, I want to do a comparison of people who don't like this show because it's too kiddie. I'm like, that's the point, and that's what makes it fun. And I want to ask you, sorry, have you ever seen the show Blacklist, for example?
Um, a few episodes, not very much. It's
Yeah.
been a long time. I honestly don't even remember it.
What's his name? Is it Jason Spade? David Spade? I think it's David Spade is his name, but
I
he's
think
the
so.
voice who did Ultron. I know him from Stargate. He was a very popular actor in the 80s. But anyways, he is.
Oh, I love Stargate.
Yeah, Stargate's awesome. I love
Yeah.
Stargate so much. He does. So there's a mystery the whole first season, and it carries on to other seasons. But the main mystery in the first season is who is the main character's dad, and you kind of keep looking at this criminal. You think he's the dad. There's blood. There's gore. There's people are dying. It's not meant for kids. But it has this mystery aspect to it. So when you and I are talking about the mystery aspect of this show, I get for me how I don't know, I guess how my brain functions. I get the same level of enjoyment from both shows because I can prep my mind and understand. Okay, it's not meant for kids like I don't know, like a Disney like cartoon little show. Like I don't know how I'm trying to think of a good example of like Kim Possible. I guess that's what it is. Like Kim Possible, that's meant for kids. Like there's none of the writers on the TV show Kim Possible said, okay, we have to like understand that adults will be watching this too. This show, Skeleton Crew, understands its audience, which is kids sure will be watching it, but it will be the parents dragging their kids to watch this show as well, because it's people for our age and a little bit older where yeah, I remember what it's like being a kid. I remember those 80 nostalgia TV shows that we watched or those movies that we watched. And it has just this like just I don't know, feel good vibe to it that I just love. Like it really captures like your heart and you're like you root for the kids in a corny but fun way. Like it's a good corny way. Like you're rooting for the kids type of thing.
Yeah.
And so of course, like none of this would actually happen, blah, blah, blah. And it's meant for kids, but it's that if you can just get in that mindset of like, just enjoy the show right now, it's good writing and it's really, really good character development, except episode 4 for me. And this is where I go is like, there's some weird aspects. So, but before I get into that, I want to hear your score. I think episode 1 and 2, you gave it an 8.
I gave it an 8. Yeah.
Yeah. I gave it an 8.5. I gave episode 3 a 9. I forgot what you gave it. I think you gave it the same thing. A 9 was episode 3.
I think I did an 8 as well. I felt like they're all kind of tied.
What would you give this score of episode 4?
I'd say 7. You know, it was really good. I liked it. I had some issues with it, but yeah, what would you give it?
So I'm even lower. I'm a 6 on this one. And it's because I think the reason why is because I think episode 1 through 3 did such a good job of like character building, mystery, where are we going with this? And I just agreed that every scene should have been in there. Where episode 4, here's my issues is first off, it's who is the main girl that saves them or finds them? What's the new what's her name?
Hannah.
You will notice Hannah does like 4 or 5 unnecessary athletic moves. Did you notice that?
Yes, I have. I want to bring something up about this, but keep going for now.
No, I want to talk about like that's my first one. I want to discuss this. So I want to hear it from you.
Okay, so I had an issue with it at first, but then I was like, she's a child, and kids just like doing dumb stuff like that. And so there's the scene where she like runs down the bus and like slides, And then like the final scene she's in, she's walking away and she does like a side flip.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Like kids just like doing stuff. And I kind of gave it a pass because I'm like, if this was an adult, like I would just hate this. Like I would just like turn it off. I'd be so upset. But for a child, I'm like, this is okay.
I would be on the same page of you if she was the age of the other kid. You know, there was another boy there that was a little bit younger, which had a hilarious line in the movie. Was like, their meaningless names are, and he announces the 4 kids' names to like their captain, whatever.
I did not catch that, but that's funny.
He says, and their meaningless names are, and he announces each one. It's just like, you're trying to be tough, and you're 5 years old. It's just hilarious. But like, I get what you're saying. It was too much because you did it too often. And it reminded me about bad Star Wars, which is, I don't know if you caught this one, but the Boba Fett episode. Did you ever see the episode where it's the Power Ranger speeder bikes, which we've already talked about? But one of the characters does this unnecessary 360-degree spin move and then fires. Like, it was very weird.
I did not see that.
Yeah, no. It took me out of it. And I remember I was like, did anyone else feel what I felt? And I go online, and it's blown up on Twitter. And just a lot of people were talking about it, and it's just like, I wasn't the only one. That was a weird thing where he does this unnecessary 360-degree move and then fires.
That's bad.
Now, to your point, he is an adult, so that bothers me more than not. Yeah, she's a kid, but then like the first one that she did that bothered me was if you remember, they went to go hide quickly.
Yeah,
she jumps up and kicks the bus door. I thought it was like, there's a secret. There's a secret passage. No. And then I'm focusing on this really hard. I'm like, okay, was it to have it that there's not a closed door so no one would go investigate it? Like, I'm trying to, in the moment, think about it, of like, why would you do that? Okay, maybe that's what she did. And then when she did the unnecessary slide down the bus, I was like, no, okay. So then what I did was, after the show, I Google who wrote it. It's the same people who wrote it. So like it's John Watts, and I forgot what the other guy's name is.
The same one that did the Boba Fett episode?
No. It's the same from the first since the beginning of the show. It's the same writers. The directors, though, they're called the Daniels, and they're very famous. If you haven't heard of the Daniels, they're famous for just doing music videos, but then they got their big shot with Everything All at Once. What's the show called?
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
That one, Everything Everywhere All at Once. They directed that movie, and that is where they got their big break. So I'm just like, okay, they do action style movie, at least I guess is their background, but like, I don't know. It took me out of it, I guess is what I'm saying. I couldn't stop thinking about it during the show. So that was one thing. My next thing is the introduction of a completely brand new society.
Wait. Before you say this, I have to say one more thing about that.
Sure.
So the girl who's doing all the acrobatics, she's under 16, right? She's got to be like,
I thought she was 13 when I was.
That's probably about how old she is. As a 16-year-old, I was doing front flips on my front lawn. So maybe that's why I give it a bit of a pass. So
I was too self-conscious as a kid. So yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. But sorry, I just had to throw that in. But go on. Your next point.
I just feel like, actually, before we get to the new tribe things, I was disappointed, but when they got to the planet, right? First off, what's her name? KB, the one with the glasses.
Yep.
Who has the glasses?
KB.
It's KB. Is her name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So KB.
Just think of it like 2 letters, like her robot name, because she's got headgear.
Like
I don't know. That's why I remember it.
KB, they're in space coming up to the planet, and they think it's at Aden, and they point, right? And they go, "Oh, there." And I'm like, "What do you mean there? If this isn't your planet, what are you pointing at?" That's what I was just like, "Hold on." And again, I'm not criticizing kids for mistaken things, especially like if it looks very similar to at Aden, which that's where I agree with you. Something that's really cool about this episode is it's like the same neighborhood. They have the same spiral, right? Like he says, that would be that's the school. They can point things in the neighborhood where it is. So
they're like now, carbon copy planets.
It's a carbon copy planet, right? So now I'm just like, okay, if they were even that confused, that could open a whole door for other things. Like, is this planet not even natural? Like, is this planet like kind of like Halo, where it was like constructed, type of thing. Because how do you have an
Yeah.
exactly the same thing? So that's where I would give
Just
KB a
the same
pass.
building plan. I don't know.
Well, like, so the buildings is
Yeah.
one thing, but if you're in space and you're pointing like
Yeah. No, I
to
get what you're saying. Maybe
a
when they
landmass,
like maybe like when they were building up all the planets, they're like, okay, we're doing the exact same like layout, like the neighborhood, exact same cul-de-sac,
yeah.
same school, same distance from everything.
I,
And
my,
I
my
guess that probably leads to your point of like, was this constructed?
mhm. Well, that's what I'm saying.
That is a good
That piques
point.
my
Yeah.
interest. Like that's where I give it like that's where it goes up in stars for me or my score because that's interesting. And there's now because we've now heard the second time of stories right where Kim showed all the planets in the map and it
Yeah.
says only one, blah blah blah. Well, that's interesting because what are like now we're discovering all these other planets. It was kind of a throwaway line in episode 3, but now it's like no, we're not ignoring these other planets. In fact, we're visiting one. So like
Yeah.
I'm okay with this, and this is good. I hope this just isn't simply. If it's not that, then now I'm annoyed because again, KB is a smart girl. She's pointed to something, and they're like, "Yes, let's go." Like that's it, and they come out like you would know your neighborhood. Like even as a kid, as a 10-year-old, I know what planet Earth looks like. I know the shape of South Africa. I know the shape of the United States. I know the shape of Australia, Europe. Like I can pinpoint where more or less my city is where I grew up, even as like an 8-year-old. So
Yeah.
I felt that's what they did, and so that would make it really interesting if that. So more to come on that. We'll find out. I'm intrigued, but if it's not, I'm going to be really disappointed. Or I hope there's a better explanation. Something down the line. I'm okay with a new
Yeah.
explanation. But if you're just going to simply get it wrong and just be like, "Hey, there's neighborhoods that looks like our neighborhood," like that would be like, I don't know. So, anyways, I like that a lot, but we'll see, right? So, kind of caveat. I
Yeah.
don't know. I guess what are your thoughts on carbon copy neighborhoods and that type of thing?
Very interesting. I thought it was really fascinating how like they point out the school, they point out the
Yeah.
tower. They're like, that's where my mom works
Hmm.
on at Aden. So it's very fascinating, and I feel like if they went to the other planets, and maybe they will, um, they might see the exact same thing again. Sorry, that jogged my memory of that room at the end where they like see all the coordinates.
Yes.
So theoretically, every one of the planets
Would
should
have the
have
same
that
one.
same room. So one thought I had was, why don't they take the coordinates of one of the other planets,
Go see
go
if they got
there,
that. I
and
thought the
then
same
go to
thing.
the same room? Um, and we'll see if they do that. I don't know. But one thing I was going to say is in the last episode, episode 3, Kim says there's 9 treasure planets. Long ago, they were all destroyed except for one. And when she said that, I'm thinking, okay, they got like turned into mush like Alderaan.
Yeah.
But obviously that's not the case. And it's like, what happened that all the buildings just like got destroyed? Like, what does it mean got destroyed?
Hmm.
And because we saw it's just like, I don't know how you would explain that. Like, what happened to it? It's like, did somebody just come and like break the buildings and like leave? Like,
I interpret it as it was constantly at war. These tribes, maybe there was more, and it's now dwindled
yeah, but how
down.
did that happen? If they were like this treasure planet that had everything they needed, why would they just like turn into tribal warfare?
I mean, maybe that's what the point of the story is like,
Yeah,
greed gets you or something like that.
maybe.
It could be anything. But that's how, I mean, that's
That's a
how I
good
interpret it
point.
watching it was just these are tribes that, you know, killed each other. They had tanks, we saw the other tribe that looked to be more equipped. They seemed to be more of like the rulers of the area. Um, or at least they seem to have more numbers and whatnot.
Yeah,
Um, but that goes into a segue of my next semi issue with this is it's a lot to introduce an entirely new society where you're turning it to be more episodic, which is what the Mandalorian was. If you remember
yeah,
the Mandalorian, he would go show up at a planet and kind of like see their way, like different planets, seeing different things, and it was interesting and it was episodic. And if you actually go watch season 1 of Mandalorian, not a lot happens as far as the overall story of season 1. What you
yeah,
enjoy about Mandalorian is the episodic nature of it, where you get to go visit different planets, you get to see different things. And so that's an interesting aspect. Skeleton Crew is not that show. What Skeleton Crew is a complete story and it's a mystery. And so every episode
yeah,
needs to add to that mystery. And that's where I felt like this was good in the aspect of adding the mystery of like, look, there's a planet that is like it's destroyed, you know, type thing. It's in it, but it's a exact copy of Ad Aden.
Yeah.
That's intriguing. To introduce an entire like tribes and like another tribe, and there was this other tribe, and like their ways. Like I guess I was curious, like why are we like what are we doing with these scenes? Like what's the point of it? Because you have to, I feel like you got to pick one. Either are we being episodic episodes, or are we having an overall story? And I feel like they were trying to mix the two. Or yeah, it'd be interesting that there's these tribes and you know like they're fighting amongst these planets type of thing. But like the real mystery is like this is actually a carbon copy of Ad Aden, and
Yes.
that's where I was against that. If I was a writer, how I would have written this episode is there is no one on that planet. It's a ghost planet. I don't want to introduce new societies because it's another thing to learn. It's like, okay, am I supposed to be following these characters now? Am I supposed to be like learning their names and you know that type of thing? It just felt out of place where episode 1, 2, and 3, every society you met so far, which is at Aden and then the pirate starship, you it mattered to the story. Like it was more in line of what's going on for Jode's character and for the kids. Like it all made sense of why these scenes were in it. I'm not
Yeah.
confident that it was necessary to be explaining these two tribes, and maybe it was a waste of time. And hence, I hate filler episodes. Is my point with this? Is I hope this wasn't just a filler episode because we only have 8 episodes and they're only 30 minutes long. I understand filler episodes when they're hour-long episodes. This is only 30 minutes, and I feel like if you only have 30-minute episodes and we're only doing 8 episodes now for some odd reason, we should be progressing pretty quickly and pretty fully into each episode. So that's where I'm just like,
That's a
I'm
good point.
I'm not like bashing on it fully. I guess I am in these words, but like in my mind, I'm not really like holding it holding against them too hard. It's just it's raising it rose my I got my eyebrows raised now, and I'm like, this is I'm having red flags there. Like I hope we
Yeah.
get some good writing in episodes 6, 7, and 8.
So that's interesting because you brought up a few minutes ago that maybe the downfall of the planets had to do something with like descending into tribal warfare. And so maybe that's why it's relevant. And I guess we'll just kind of have to see.
I get that, and that's what I'm saying. Because maybe I'm wrong, right? And maybe this does have to do with everything. Like you got to wait for the season to be over. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, as a viewer at this moment, I have to wait a week
Yeah.
till the next episode. I was like, I'm not enjoying this right now. But maybe it's gonna like come back and be like, oh, okay. But I feel like there's a better way to do that, where I'm ending the episode fully understanding, not fully, but at least connecting the dots of this is why these guys are there to at least a certain extent, where I'm I understand fully why that episode was there. Example is episode 1 and 2 and 3. Every single character, even like it was semi of a new society you learn about in episode 3 of like the starport. I understood why it's there. I understood why it's important. I understood like why it's all connecting. I feel like these tribes was just like, okay, are we being episodic? You know, we just want to explore new worlds. Like I don't like that's where I was just kind of like, what are we doing with this story here? And maybe it's just because I was still annoyed the girl did another front flip in front of everyone, but it was
That
just
could be the case.
yeah. I
Um,
I feel like there was just different ways to do it. Like they could have found tablets or like manuscripts and discovered how the planet was destroyed. You know, if they're going with a message of like tribal wars were at each other or something like that, there's ways you could have done it. But also like it I guess another like negative for me was they weren't interesting enough. I wasn't all that fascinated with them where I wanted to learn more about them. I didn't care about the tribes all that much. I didn't find them like all that intimidating either. Like it wasn't like, oh, this is a cool tribe,
yeah.
you know, type thing. Um, and also after all that, because you have to do the screen time, who was the least shown character was Jude Law. Jude Law had very little screen time in this episode, and
Yeah.
for me, I felt it. I was like, he's the one for me who's carrying this show really well, and the kids do a really good job. I like the kids a lot, but we spent a lot of time on these two tribes. I guess one of the tribe. We didn't spend any time on the other tribe, but we spent a lot of time on the one tribe, and a lot of time on this new character who apparently Neil's got a crush on. It was just a lot of screen time on them, and so I'm like, okay, why are we having so much screen time on them? and it to me it just took away from like some like why I've been liking this show so much is Jude Law is the characters and that type of thing. But as we keep saying, it does seem like it's helping the quote unquote mystery to it all, and so that's where I am like I'm still fully enjoying it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it did add a lot to the mystery for me, at least. I want to say a few things about the tribes and kind of their conflict, but first off, I wrote this down. This was the funniest part of the episode for me. Jude Law is walking down the ramp, the robot's behind him, and then there's like the tribe is just, they're all there waiting for him. And he just he's like trying to figure out what to do, and he goes, "You know what? Just shoot me." Just yeah. And I just like, I love that. That was like so funny to me. But a few things about the tribes that I wanted to bring up, just random points. There's the one scene where they're getting food, and Neil gets the food, and then he gives it to like the two young kids, and like he's like, "Oh, they're hungry, like they need food." And I'm just sitting there like, why are these like 2 10-year-olds like being starved? Or they're probably younger than that. They're probably like 6 or something. Like in this society that like reveres children and raises them to be warriors, like why are these 2 kids just like starving?
And it looks like there's like a total of 40 of them, like total. Like you're really gonna let like just 2 random kids like.
It was just like so bizarre to me. I'm like, what did this add to the show?
And that goes back to the writing problem for me, which was, the point wasn't to have 2 starving kids, and it like
it was to show Neil's kindness.
It was to show Neil's kindness, and it was just like it seemed forced, right? And that's when people say something's forced. This is a perfect example of it. It's when a writer says, "Okay, I need to show a character X here that they are a good person in front of character Y." So therefore, what's an example of that? Oh, feeding the poor. Sure. Well, I need to put poor people in here now. What's even sadder than poor people? Poor kids. So let's put 2 poor kids in here who don't have parents. They seem like they're orphans, and it just shows Neil's got this kind heart. But for me, it takes me out of it. It's kind of like, just like you, it's like, why are there kids sitting there? And why is she so impressed by that? They're kids. Like, your bar is really low. Then this is what you're saying. You're so impressed with giving food to the children out on the street, type of thing. And it was actually on top of the building, but it was like, there's like 40 of you. Why are you even? And you just had this whole speech just 5 minutes ago regarding how like you hold children responsible and you treat them like adults and stuff. It's like, what? Like, what is going on here? Why are there 2 kids? Anyways, it took me out of it too. I agree 100%.
Yeah. Oh man. So the other point I wanted to bring up is Jode buys the EOPs back from the rival tribe so he can trade them for the kids. Which first off, he didn't know he needed to trade them for the kids. Like, but my other point was like, you're like engaged in tribal warfare. You're on this planet where resources are everything. And you're going to tell me like, you want money for these EOPs? Like,
I didn't even think about
what are you
going
to spend the money on?
Yeah.
And maybe they have some sort of trade, but it seems like, I mean, it's a lost planet. Like nobody knows where it is. It's like, you're not having like off planet trade, I don't think. And so for me, I'm just like, what's the money good for? But who knows? Like that's just kind of a random side nitpick. But
well, I agree with the point 100% because it goes back to my point, which is it's possible we're going to find out in future episodes that there's a reason why they valued money so much, type of thing.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet. We're on episode 5 right now. We have to sit and wait a week, and you're supposed to be grabbing my attention and keeping me interested for weeks to come. Which sadly, by the way, I don't know if you read this. This show is not getting a lot of views, and it's
really?
Yeah, it's actually really low on the viewership when it ranks in Star Wars, and I don't blame that on the show whatsoever. I blame it on previous bad Star Wars. I think people have given up on Star Wars 100%, and
that's a lot of the sentiment I see online is people are just like, another Star Wars show. They've all sucked. We're not going to watch this.
We're not going to watch it. So again, I think as Skeleton Crew, which was created later, you got to have known how bad some of these Star Wars shows have been, right?
Yeah.
You need to have a home run here. And to me, they have had a home run. Like, I actually think they've done great. But you've only got 8 episodes. You need to have your A game all 8 episodes. And for me, they had their A game episode 1. Episode 1 was okay. Episode 2 was phenomenal. Episode 3 was even better. And then this is why I'm saying, like, I liked it because of the mystery aspect. I think you and I are both on the same page there. But there's just like, I raised my eyebrows a little bit on some of these scenes, and I'm just like, why is that girl flipping again? Like, why is she doing another acrobat?
The
Like,
flip.
what?
We'll never get over it.
Yeah, like what? Why is like the Neil? Like, I understand what you're doing. You're trying to have Neil look like a great person in front of this other character, but this was really forced, guys. Like, it was really forced, and we didn't need this fully, type of thing.
Yeah.
But it was just, I don't know. There was just certain aspects to that. But now, like, fast forwarding to the episode, now we get to Jode's character, as you brought up with the coins or what the credits. There was a scene where, if you remember, what's his name? Wim. What's the main character boy's name?
Yeah.
Wim. He was disappointed that Jode took the credits, and he did take them. Like he stole them, like full blown. He actually did stole them, and the robot got in his face, type of thing, or at least he was at least admiring it. And then the robot got in his face. We don't know if he was actually going to like pocket it, but it was something like, you are going through someone's stuff, and we're learning more about your character in that aspect. So that's something. But like, what did we really learn from him where Wim is actually now disappointed? Should have we felt disappointed in Jode? Because it was kind of too quick for me, where I didn't really feel anything. Like, I wasn't like disappointed in Jode and like, oh my gosh, like, how could you do that? Because that's how Wim felt, right? He was a little bit like disappointed in Jode. And that's what, again, I was just confused. Like, what do the writers want me to feel at this moment right now? Am I supposed to be upset with Wim as well? Because I don't agree with what Jode did in the aspect, like, going through someone's stuff, sure. But it wasn't like confirmed that he pocketed the money. But we also know, like, he is a pirate.
Because he had it when he bought the Eopies.
I guess like that was the reveal. Yeah, if he had it on him, he did end up pocketing it. But I also could have imagined, like, he's like, I've got credits in this ship. Just give me 2 seconds, like.
Yeah, that could be true.
Because they didn't show it.
It's interesting because I feel like it does try to show him as like this like morally ambiguous character where he's like trying to help the kids, but like he's willing to go and look through their stuff and steal their money. And like a good writer would take that scene and say he steals the kid's money and there's a reveal and there's consequences and he loses trust. But what they did in this episode was like, oh no, I stole it, but like I was able to buy your freedom. And it was like only good came from it. And so it was kind of like it didn't fit the normal storytelling trope.
And which is why I went and Googled, okay, who are these writers? These were different, and they weren't. I was kind of shocked. Like, these are the same writers from episode 1 to 3. That's you said it better than me, which was like there should have been like a fall for Jode, and like maybe like he feels bad what he did, and he needs to overcome that. Like, he needs to get forgiveness or something of that nature. We need to feel something, but it was too like level.
Too quick. Like we don't even. It feels like they just blew through everything.
Exactly. Like, were we supposed to feel something with Jode doing that type thing? Because in the end, like, he does get the kids' freedom back, and that's what he uses everything for. But it was also like, oh yeah, like, but was it a good thing? Like, I don't know. He still needs add in. Like, I guess is that going to his mystery? I think the writers wanted us to feel he did something wrong, and then he corrected it by getting the kids' freedom back. Kind of what you just described. It was supposed to be that. But I think it was not executed well. And that's why this show goes down in a few points for me. You lost screen time with Jude Law, he's the best character so far in this whole show. And I'm confused by the tribes of why we're focusing on them. And I can't stand the girl doing flips for some reason. Unnecessary flips throughout the show.
Okay, 2 things just like hit my memory talking about this. And so there's the one scene where the girl's like, oh, like we should show him the archives. And her dad's like, no, like it's too dangerous or something. Doesn't he say like it's dangerous?
He says that afterwards. He gives her a sharp look going, like, I think he just says her name in a sharp manner, showing, to me, I took it as stop talking. Like, that's what, like, don't reveal this.
But then he says it's too dangerous. And, but then when they go at the end, it's like, nothing happened. Like literally not one thing happened.
I didn't even think about that. You're right. What was the danger? What was like
And the other thing is like, if he just didn't want them to go, it's like, why? It was just like a ruins that didn't have anything valuable. Like, why would he care if they went or not?
There should have been like, some connecting thing where he's the protector of some, I don't know. Like, add
It's just
something
like
to it.
it didn't make sense to me why he didn't want. Maybe he just didn't want them to go because he wanted them to be his warriors, which again is just like so bizarre. Like he's like, "Oh, we're gonna put you through like difficult training," and then he just left them for like an hour to like shoot guns on
Yeah.
their own. Like that wasn't difficult training.
Which
They were just
again,
like
you don't
goofing
know
off.
these kids at
Yeah,
all. Like,
and you're gonna
they're
give
gonna
them
go
blasters.
put, they're gonna turn around and kill your daughter. Like, you don't know that. Like, that was
Yeah,
another thing. It was like,
and it's like, oh, like these random kids just walked into our camp. Like
you don't have
we're
any
just gonna
questions.
like kidnap them and like
You know,
you're like our warriors now and we're gonna put you on the front line of battle.
yeah,
Like it was just so bizarre to me. I just like, oh, that was the worst part of the episode, was like the child warrior.
right. Well, once again, what I think the writers wanted was, and again, I think there was, I personally think there was a problem with what the writers wrote down and the execution from the directors. I think this was the worst gap than the other
Okay,
shows,
yeah.
right? What I think the writers wanted in this case was he was just using the kids because I don't even know what their scout mission was when they're all trying to scout something. I didn't even like pay attention enough to know what it was, but he wanted them to lead first. That would make more sense. I think that's what the writers want, is like use the kids as like a
Like a
shield or
distraction.
bait. Like, because like if you don't want to endanger your own crew or your
Yeah.
own people, so therefore, yeah, I can now see why the captain would have accepted them into their ranks, but he's just using for them as basically a droid to just walk out in front to get shot first, to then, like at least those kids die and not my people. I
Yeah,
think
but
that's what the
everyone's
writers.
like standing right behind the
Yeah,
kids.
and it was also weird. Like, I don't know, not that you need like a military advisor, but I was just like, how all of you are standing right now is no way you would do in battle. Like, you guys don't look like you've been in battle for years and you're in like an apocalyptic world. Like, you'd be hiding behind things while like they're all grouped together like in a little thing and just pointing at the kids who are behind the wall. Like, they're
Yeah.
very visible from, there's tall buildings everywhere, like you can't get sniped anywhere. Like, again, it took me out of the show and it kept me thinking about the real world where I wasn't immersed. I was like, why did the writers do this? That's weird. That's bad acting, whatever it is. So that's where, for me, this show felt flat in those areas. But again, once again, why I give it a higher score as a 6, where I give it a pass on some stuff, is the mystery was really good. What
Yep.
is this planet? It seems to be a carbon copy of like, so much where the kids thought they were on their own planet. What I thought they were going to do was, you ever see like Planet of the Apes, where by going into space and then coming back, they're in the future now and all their parents are dead. I'm like, if they go that route, like, wow, that's going to be,
For a second, I almost thought
yeah.
that's what was going to happen.
Because I was like, that's intense, to like, you're going to kill off basically their parents and everything that they love and know, because by jumping into hyperspace for whatever reason, they time traveled into the future. I thought that's what they were
Yeah.
going to do, and then it turns out it's just not the right planet. So,
Yeah. Okay, I have 2 more things to bring up. One is a funny one. I don't know if you noticed, but there's this scene where Wim goes to give KB a high five, and
yeah,
she looks like she like doesn't know what he's doing, and then she just like holds her hand, and he goes like that,
yeah.
and she kind of smiles. It's just like so funny to me. I'm like, does she like not know what a high five is?
I thought the same thing. I thought it was a little out of character. I'm like, KB's not like socially awkward. Like, she's just, I think she's the kinder of the two girls, and she's more
Yeah.
like, she's obviously the intelligent one, but she's not like, she's not
not
like
dumb.
from a different planet where she doesn't
Yeah.
know what a high five means, type of thing. So,
Yeah.
I did find it was funny though, where he extended it to like complete high five.
That was good. So the last thing I want to talk about, and if you have other things, I'd be happy to keep chatting too, but is Wim's dad. My theory is that Wim's dad is the pirate that crashed the ship onto Aden.
That's a great. I love it, dude. That's a good theory. What makes you think that?
Yes. So the first thing that made me think it was what was I thinking? So the first thing was when Wim's dad goes to look for Wim, he goes straight to where they were. He's like going through the forest. Wim said like, I saw a Jedi temple, and he's like just goes right to where it was. Remember? Because he gets there like right as they're taking off.
Yes. So you're saying just because he said I found a Jedi temple in the forest, he shouldn't know where in the forest it should be.
Yeah, he, he might have been like, oh, maybe it's like my old ship that I buried. And that might be a bit of a stretch. Maybe he was just looking through the forest. But I just had this, I don't know, because at the end, the robot saying, like, my captain said, like, don't tell anybody where, if anybody asks about Aden, like, don't say anything. So it kind of led me to believe, like, the captain made it and then, like, left the ship and,
I
like,
think they
was living
implied
on
the
Aden.
captain. I think they implied the captain was stabbed though from the there's skeletons in the ship.
Yes.
But I
So
agree
did
with you that
everyone
that
just,
doesn't
like,
mean it's the captain.
die? Did everyone die? Did not
Right,
one person leave the ship? Which is
right.
possible.
Like
But
you're very
I
right.
don't know. I mean, we'll just have to see.
I
And
think
maybe
that's what the
they'll just
writers
all
want us to
die.
think right now. But I think that's very plausible.
Yeah.
What you're saying is someone got there and then maybe someone got out and
Maybe
just
he just, like, got there and slipped out and, like, started life.
yeah.
Um,
It's definitely time passed because like it's dirt, over the ship. It's a lot of dirt and there's plants growing. Like it's not a small amount of time that ship has been there. It's been there
yeah.
quite a long time.
Because the other thing is, like, nobody knew it was there. So, like,
Hmm.
how long ago before did it get there where, like, nobody saw it land? I mean, I assume they have, like, defense systems in place, but
Yeah,
that is a really big question mark. Um,
I
yeah,
thought it
we'll
was
see.
Jude Law's character that was the captain for,
At
and
first I
then
thought that, but then I
yeah,
don't think so.
right. I don't think anymore because it's too much of the context of things that's been going on.
Yeah.
That was my original theory, but I haven't given a lot of thought on who the original captain was of it all. But I agree that the amount that they have talked about, like, with keeping the robot involved, and they've been talking about
Yeah.
now the captain giving it orders. They need to close that loop of okay, who did crash land on at Aden and where did that ship come from, that type of thing. So therefore, having it to be a reveal of someone important, I think that's a great start. Is Wim's dad? Why not? We don't know
Yeah.
enough about Wim's mom. We don't know enough. Like he mentions her right in episode 1. Didn't he say something
He
about her?
said something. He's like something about, like, read me a story like mom used to, or something.
Hmm. And also, I think what aligns with your theory is why is he so like spacey, like thinking about leaving and all this
Yeah.
stuff, is because maybe as a very young child, he was in space. Like he did say maybe he was young, I don't know. Like there, and he's had it blocked out. Maybe there's technology to erase his memory. Like who knows? Like we'll see. I like that theory a lot of the dad being the captain, the original captain type of thing. Because yeah,
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, he also just seems, like, very quiet and, like, he just doesn't. He just, something seems a little off about him.
Hmm.
I don't know
Agree.
what, but we'll
What
see.
what is your theory? So we talk about this every time we end our podcast, or not our podcast, our episode reviews. What is your current theory on all the mysteries that are out in the air right now? So you just brought up one, which is Captain is the original Captain is Wim's dad. What about what is the planets? Why carbon copy? What are they doing? Like, what's your theory on that?
Yeah, I still. That's one that I just really don't know. I'm still, like, totally lost on it.
So I'm going with it is something for the First Order. I think they're going to tie this into. This is the same thing I said last episode. I think the planets are mining something, and they're trying to do something in secret. I don't want to ruin it because you haven't seen it yet, but it's very similar to what Andor was. Andor has a similar thing that happens, and so but here with this, I believe that they're because I find that interesting. Where in Star Wars they don't explain how a Death Star was actually built. They just say like the Empire somehow constructed it, but like the amount of engineering that needs to go into building a Death Star is really interesting and fascinating. And there's been a few spin-offs that actually try to explain this. And Andor is one of the shows that does that. And there is also Rogue One in itself explains how the plans and everything like that, and getting the engineer to design the whole thing. And that's the whole point of the movie Rogue One. So there's been a few spin-offs of explaining how was this constructed. What's they skipped from Return of the Jedi into Force Awakens is they just go back, like the rebels win in Return of the Jedi, so Luke wins, like the Empire is destroyed, blah blah blah, And then comes Force Awakens. All of a sudden, the First Order is running things, and somehow the Republic did not maintain power for very long. And so,
Yeah.
therefore, what's been going on that whole time? I think that these planets is something in line with mining, is something with like gathering resources to make this happen, to make the first empire or what's it called? Is it the first empire? The uh,
First Order.
First Order. Thank you.
Yeah.
That how is the First Order into power? What are they mining though? Is it just those Republic credits and that's it? Like, is it like that?
No,
Can't be it.
I don't know. And that's actually kind of an interesting theory, because you got to think of like why were the other 8 planets destroyed?
Mm-hmm.
Did the um, did the Rebel Alliance destroy them because they were doing stuff for the Empire?
Yeah, Gary Co's like,
Good
what is the
question.
story behind it type thing, which is
Yeah.
obviously the mystery, right? And so his
Yep.
theory, best theory I've got right now is I think all planets were mining something. I think that the planet was rich in a resource, and they were meant to be. I take it back, going back to the theory of the
No
planets were
take backs.
there's well because we talked about an interesting point where they were so confused that it was supposed to be that city, like it was, I mean, everything was supposed to be like exactly their hometown. So if it's
Yeah.
carbon copy, I like the theory I have right now where the planet itself is a carbon copy. So like Halo, like that planet was built for something. What is the planet building? It's that's I want to stick around with that theory. So therefore, if you constructed a planet, that means you're not mining because you constructed the planet, you know. So
Yeah.
therefore, I think of like Marstapha, where it's, you know, they build the android army, you know, stuff like that. Like, what is something that they're producing hidden on these planets to make sure it's going on? I'm gonna go with star destroyers. So like
Yeah.
um in the last you see from Palpatine when he has all these star destroyers raised from the planet. I don't know if you remember that. Maybe something along those lines that they're building something. So I really think they're going to connect something there. It's a very weak theory I've got. Like, I don't have a great connection as to like, yeah, that's what's going on. But they needed. I think they're going to do something that connects with the sequels, and that's my best thing. It's like they constructed these planets for a specific design to mass produce and pump out star destroyers. Is what I first got. I don't love that theory, but
Hmm.
we'll see on different episodes we go.
Time will tell.
Time
4
will
more
tell.
episodes.
Three, right? Three more episodes.
Well, that was 4, right?
That was episode. Oh yeah, so we're at 5, 6, 7, 8. You're right. So we're halfway there.
Yeah.
This was halfway.
Halfway.
Yeah, man.
Halfway.
So what do you think, Cam?
Yeah, let's call it a wrap. It was a good
Yeah,
one. Good chats.
like it, man. Well, I'll catch you out. I'll catch you Monday.
Okay, sounds good.
See you, man.
See ya.